was one of my best friends. And that's how I can say that, because I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I just have the wonderful spot in life that I choose to do what I want to do. He spit on stages, swore at crowds, and became the face of punk rebellion that scared parents all over the world. But behind the safety pins and mean looks, Johnny Rotten had one of music's most smart and surprising sets of favorite artists that would blow your mind completely. Welcome to another episode of Offstage Tales, where today we're flipping the script to show Johnny Rotten's 6 favorite musicians. And trust me, these picks will break apart everything you thought you knew about punk's angriest voice. The man who screamed "no future" and destroyed the music world actually got inspiration from some of the most unexpected corners of the musical universe. People think punk came from nowhere. Rotten once told in a rare honest interview, "But I was listening to everything. Jazz, classical, weird noise music. Punk was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And those puzzle pieces included artists that would make your head spin. Pink Floyd. I mean, they were the royal family of music. From German music makers to Jamaican producers, from art rock pioneers to folk rebels, Rotten's musical diet was far richer and stranger than anyone imagined. These weren't just casual listens. They were deep obsessions that shaped punk's DNA in ways that music historians are still discovering. So throw away your ideas and get ready for some mind-bending surprises, because Johnny Rotten's record collection was way weirder and more wonderful than his angry public face ever showed. 6. Captain Beefheart. Starting off our countdown at number 6 is an influence that makes perfect sense once you think about it. Captain Beefheart. Rotten's obsession with the weird blues magician wasn't just about strange music. It was about finding an artist who completely said no to everything the music industry stood for. The connection reportedly began in the mid-1970s when Rotten discovered Beefheart's Trout Mask replica album through a friend's recommendation. If there was, he wouldn't have topped himself, would he? Because he would have learned that life's precious and not a thing to be destroyed. According to former Sex Pistols bass player Glenn Matlock, Rotten would play the record all the time, telling anyone who'd listen, "This is what real rebellion sounds like." Not playing by anyone's rules, not even musical ones. What grabbed Rotten wasn't just Beefheart's weird approach, but his complete artistic honesty. While other musicians were chasing record deals and radio play, Beefheart was creating what Rotten called pure art without giving up on music that existed in its own world, completely separate from what sells records. Don Van Vliet understood that true rebellion means destroying what people expect, not just breaking them, Rotten told NME in 1977, using Beefheart's real name to show his serious respect for the artist. The influence showed up in Rotten's later work with Public Image Ltd., where he used Beefheart's unpredictable rhythms and vocal experiments. At interviews, Rotten would defend Beefheart against critics who called him unlistenable, saying, "If it's easy to digest, it's not challenging anything." For Rotten, Captain Beefheart represented the ultimate artistic freedom. Creating without caring about audience reaction, success, or even basic musical rules, proving that rebellion could be smart as well as emotional. 5. Scott Walker. At number 5, we discover Rotten's unexpected fascination with crooner-turned-experimentalist Scott Walker. Sometimes late at night I watch the fire. His love for the former Walker Brothers frontman wasn't about pop nostalgia. It was about finding an artist who abandoned commercial success to chase increasingly abstract and haunting musical territories. The obsession reportedly began in 1976 when Rotten discovered Walker's solo albums through a record shop recommendation. According to Sex Pistols manager Malcolm McLaren, Rotten became fascinated by Walker's dramatic transformation, telling him he went from teen idol to complete artistic madman. That's real punk. Destroying your own success to find something true. What grabbed Rotten wasn't Walker's early hits, but his fearless artistic evolution. While other established artists were repeating successful formulas, Walker was achieving cult status through what Rotten described as beautiful terror and orchestral nightmares that somehow express more emotion than normal songs ever could. Scott Walker taught me that real rebellion means abandoning what makes you popular, Rotten told NME in 1978, praising Walker's willingness to make his fan base mad for artistic growth. The influence surfaced in Rotten's own post-punk experiments, particularly his willingness to add dramatic arrangements and unconventional vocal techniques. During recording sessions, band members reported Rotten studying Walker's theatrical delivery methods. Rotten would defend Walker against critics who missed his commercial period, explaining he chose artistic honesty over easy money, which is the hardest choice any musician can make. For Rotten, Scott Walker represented artistic transformation, proving that true artists must constantly evolve, even if it means destroying everything that initially made them successful. Number 4 reveals Rotten's deep respect for Jamaican dub master Lee "Scratch" Perry. His worship of the weird producer wasn't about reggae's popularity. It was about discovering an artist who treated the recording studio like a mad scientist's laboratory and created sounds that broke every rule of normal music production. The fascination reportedly began in 1977 when Rotten heard Perry's dub experiments at a friend's Notting Hill flat. According to journalist Caroline, Rotten became fascinated by the sonic manipulation, declaring, "This man is turning music inside out and upside down. He's not just making records, he's creating new realities." What amazed Rotten wasn't reggae's political messages, but Perry's studio wizardry. While other producers were polishing tracks to perfection, Perry was achieving otherworldly effects through what Rotten called controlled chaos and madness that somehow makes perfect sense when you stop trying to understand it. Scratch Perry proves that the best art comes from the edge of sanity, Rotten told Black Music magazine in 1979, defending Perry against critics who dismissed his work as self-indulgent. Yeah, or stuff like that. Yeah, I think most kids did too. Most kids wanted to go to the top of the pops. The influence surfaced in Rotten's later experimental phases where he added dub spatial effects and echo manipulations. During interviews, Rotten would rave about Perry's fearless approach to sound, explaining how dub taught him that silence and space were as important as noise. Rotten saw Perry as a kindred spirit in musical rebellion, saying, "We're both outsiders who refuse to play by established rules, whether that's punk rules or reggae rules." For Rotten, Lee Perry represented pure creative freedom, proving that genius often looked like madness to normal minds. 3. Van der Graaf Generator. Number 3 brings us to perhaps Rotten's most unexpected obsession, Van der Graaf Generator. His love for the theatrical prog rock outfit wasn't about rejecting punk values. It was about finding musicians who channeled raw emotion through sophisticated arrangements and refused to hold back their intensity. The discovery reportedly happened in 1975 when Rotten heard Pawn Hearts at a friend's house party. According to Malcolm McLaren, Rotten stood frozen during Peter Hamill's vocal performance, later saying, "That man screams like his life depends on it, but he's doing it over these incredible musical landscapes. It's a punk emotion with classical power." What stunned Rotten wasn't their complexity, but their emotional honesty. While other prog bands were showing off technical skills, Van der Graaf Generator was using their instrumental skills to create what Rotten called beautiful violence and anger transformed into art without losing any of its force. "Peter Hamill taught me that you can be smart and still completely raw," Rotten told Melody Maker in 1978, praising the vocalist's theatrical yet genuine delivery style. The influence showed up in Rotten's dramatic stage presence and his later willingness to experiment with longer song structures. Band members recalled him studying Hamill's vocal techniques and explaining how emotion could be made bigger through musical sophistication rather than made smaller by it. Rotten defended his prog rock appreciation against punk purists, arguing intelligence doesn't make music less powerful. It makes it more dangerous because it knows exactly where to strike. For Rotten, Van der Graaf Generator proved that complexity and authenticity weren't opposites. They were tools for expressing deeper truths. 2. Neil Young. At number 2, we uncover Rotten's surprising love for Neil Young. They give you this, but you pay for that. His respect for the Canadian folk rocker wasn't about musical style. It was about finding an artist who consistently refused to give audiences what they expected and built an entire career on fearless artistic independence. The admiration reportedly developed in 1976 when Rotten discovered Young's Tonight's the Night album during his pre-fame days. According to Sex Pistols guitarist Steve Jones, Rotten would play the record obsessively, explaining, "This guy doesn't care if people like what he's doing. He just follows his instincts wherever they lead, even if it destroys his commercial appeal." Neil Young, where are you? Through your management. What impressed Rotten wasn't Young's folk credentials, but his refusal to repeat himself. While other established artists were recycling successful formulas, Young was constantly reinventing his sound through what Rotten described as genuine restlessness and artistic courage that most musicians never develop. "Neil Young changes direction every time people think they've figured him out," Rotten told Rolling Stone in 1980, praising Young's unpredictable career moves and genre experimentation. The influence appeared in Rotten's own willingness to abandon punk expectations with Public Image Ltd. and his refusal to reunite the Sex Pistols for easy money. During interviews, he would cite Young's example when defending his artistic decisions against commercial pressure. Rotten saw Young as proof that longevity came from evolution, not repetition, explaining, "He's been rebelling against his own success for decades, which is the hardest kind of rebellion." For Rotten, Neil Young represented authentic artistic honesty, showing that real rebels never stopped challenging themselves regardless of outside expectations or financial consequences. 1. Nico. And finally, at number 1, we reach the most shocking surprise of all, Nico. Yes, the haunting Velvet Underground singer reportedly earned Johnny Rotten's deepest musical respect in what became his most unexpected and profound artistic obsession. The fascination reportedly began in 1974 when teenage Rotten discovered Nico's solo album, The Marble Index, in a London record shop. According to biographer John Savage, Rotten became completely consumed by her work, telling friends, "She sings like she's already dead, but somehow more alive than anyone else. It's the most honest sound I've ever heard." What grabbed Rotten wasn't her Velvet Underground fame, but her fearless exploration of darkness. While other singers were trying to connect with audiences, Nico was creating what Rotten called beautiful isolation and music that doesn't ask for your approval. It just exists in its own frozen universe. Rotten viewed Nico as the ultimate artistic purist, explaining, "She never gave up her vision, never tried to be likable, never said sorry for being difficult to digest." For Rotten, Nico represented absolute artistic fearlessness, proving that the most powerful music came from complete emotional honesty, regardless of commercial consequences or audience comfort. So, there you have it. Punk's angriest voice had the most smart taste. These influences prove rebellion and intelligence aren't enemies. Which choice shocked you most? Subscribe and share your thoughts below.